Right, as you can see, we have the top crankcase of the RD250 on the bench, and for this project we're going to be converting this 250 engine into a 350 engine. That's impossible, you say. Well, I've done it before, so many years ago. Anyway, first job was getting the cases vapor blasted, which has been done already. I've skipped a few steps here, and I've also installed the tacho drive back into this top crankcase. That's all in now. So the next job is to replace these studs, because the original 250 studs are slightly shorter than the 350 studs required for the new barrels. So we'll whip them out and replace them with the new studs. Alright, I've taken a couple of the studs out, as you can see, and these are, well, this is the new stud size. Notice that the longer thread on one end, that goes at the bottom, that goes in here. The long thread goes in the bottom and the shorter threads go in the top. So I'm going to take these lot out and replace them with my set of new studs which I got from a supplier. Let's hope they're all good. I'm going to apply a little bit of thread lock to these threads, just a little bit. It's not strictly necessary, but it should help. There we go. That's the first one in by hand. Right, that's 4 in, 4 to go. You can possibly see the height difference. They come out about 80 millimeters above the top of the gasket surface, so which is, you know, slightly higher. Looking at it, it's, I haven't measured the other side, but it's probably about 70 something. Yeah, the old ones are about 75 and the new ones are about 80, so yeah, there is a slight difference. I must admit, I did this conversion back in 1979 and I don't remember changing the studs over. I used the original 250 studs and I never had any problems. So, but those were different days. So yeah, maybe there might have been a problem if I'd have tightened them up too much or something, but I didn't find a problem. But anyway, we're replacing this one properly with the recommended length. So let's get the other 4 in. Right, that's all 8 of the new studs put in, and now we're going to move on to putting the crankcases together. Putting the crank in, obviously, gearbox parts, and anything else that needs doing. Right, got the bottom half of the crankcase on the bench now, with the gearbox internals in and the crankshaft for a bit of a test fit, because I'm going to use a method of putting the gasket compound on, which probably isn't recommended, but I prefer it. So rather than trying to get the compound in and, you know, around all these hills and valleys and drives, etc., I'm going to take them out. I'm then going to apply the compound on the surface all round, and then very carefully I'm going to drop the internals back in position. And in theory that should be easier. I should be able to get a nice little gasket surface all sorted out before any of this stuff's put in, and if I'm careful I should be able to fit it back. Obviously I've got to be careful with the crank. They have these little notches on the bearings that you have to make sure that they're in the correct holes. And by the way, I thought I'd mention, I got this crank reconditioned by PJ Motorcycles in Wolverhampton, and what they did for me, I told them that I was upgrading the 250 to a 350, and you know, was there any recommendations? Anyway, what they've done for me is they've put in TZ350 conrods and big ends. So it's a bit of a hybrid crank. It's got all the original RD/250/350 bottom ends, new labyrinth seal, new bearings, everything all completely renewed. But we've got TZ big ends and conrods. So this thing, you know, should be able to take a little bit of extra oomph, you know, over the standard item. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. So, you know, it cost a bit more, but so, hey, you only do this once every, in my case, 40 years. So you might as well go to town. Right, let's get this stuff out and get the gasket cement in. Right, I've taken all the internals out, all ready for putting the gasket sealing stuff in. So we'll do the bottom one first, and then do the top half, and then put the internals back in, and hopefully should all go swimmingly well. Okay, I've applied some Yamaha blue gasket cement to the cases. Oh, why are you using Yamaha blue? Why aren't you using Yambond? Well, you know, I used Yamaha blue years ago, and I'm still using it. I find it's you know, it's easy to work with. It doesn't set super hard like I think some of these new bonds, like I say new, they're probably just as old as Yamaha, but they sort of set like the cases are almost glued together like with araldite, you know. And if you ever have to get the cases apart, Jesus, you need mallets and all sorts of things. But this stuff is a bit easier to work with. So anyway, that's what I use. If you don't like it, don't worry about it. So now that's all in, the fun and games part is putting in the gearbox and crankshaft, which I think should be alright, but let's see. Right, crank's in, gearbox internals are in. You mustn't forget to put the little retainers. This one's got one that's goes 360 around the whole bearing, and also this is a new bearing. In fact, they're all new bearings, all 4 bearings replaced. This bearing as standard came with one of these 360-degree retainers, whereas on my engine there is no facility for the retainer to go in all the way round on that bearing. So I took the 360 that was supplied and just put in the little half moon retainer in. You know, that's going to be fine. Maybe the newer versions of the bike had a channel to have a 360 bearing retainer in there. I don't know. Right, so we've got to put some oil seals in, obviously there and there, and then obviously in the crank. I'll get them on. Okay, so we've got the oil seals in position. Notice the spring on this side is on the outside, not on the inside, and this one is sort of more conventional with the spring on the inside. The little clutch push rod seal here, and that's the final dry sprocket seal. Of course you don't have any seals this side because this is all immersed in gearbox oil anyway, so it doesn't need to be sealed. So basically that is in position and all ready to go, really. So hold on to your hats and see what happens. One final thing before you join the crankcases together, make sure that the little notches on those bearings are in the little seating, which I've just checked. Most important. And also you'll notice that I've got the engine on blocks, and the reason for that is when I put the top case on, those studs are going to go through the holes obviously, and if you didn't have them raised off the bench, you're not going to be able to get the crankcases tightly together. And you know, in the kerfuffle that would involve, you'd probably then move the crank and then get the the little notches out of position. So this way, hopefully, it all should be tickety-boo, and we'll be able to seat the crankcases faces together. I'll then get one of the top bolts on the top crankcase, just temporarily, just to clamp them together, and then before I turn the engine upside down, obviously to tighten the nuts for these studs. So that's a little hint for you. Right, there we go, the cases are joined. Little tap with a soft face mallet, just make sure the surfaces are reasonably together, which they are. Right, I'm going to get a top nut in, top bolt in. I think I'll go for number 13, unlucky for some, and maybe a couple of others, just to hold it in position before I turn the engine over to get the main nuts in. Okay, you can see that we've got number 13 in and number 11. I took the liberty of labelling each nut as I took it out, because various bolts, because various bolts have various different retainers for the looms, etc., and pipes. I can't remember which one goes where, so obviously I labelled that one 11, this one 13. Didn't have any sorts of brackets on it. So that is now solidly joined those crankcases together. So we're now going to turn him upside down and start putting the nuts in. Right, we've got the engine case sitting upside down. You can see the studs sticking out in the various positions. We'll get those nuts on. The cases look all nicely together, nothing caught, no massive gaps anywhere. You can just see the old blue squidgy coming through, so let's get those nuts on. Right, that's the engine nuts and bolts torqued down, so I think that it is probably it for this part, and we'll come back to you when we start getting the rest of it together. I'll probably just get rid of that little bit of blue, because that's going to be showing. The rest of it internally, obviously the blue Hylamar isn't really going to show up anywhere, so it doesn't really matter. So I don't want everyone to think, oh, he's used blue Hylamar on this engine, not Yam Bond, do I? I want to keep that a secret. So anyway, okay, I think that's about it. The crankshaft turns all right. I'll probably put a little bit of two-stroke oil, a bit of lube on the big ends, because I'm not sure how long it's going to be before I get the frame, etc., all together and get this thing running. So if it's sitting for a little while, I don't want it to sort of seize up as such. So we'll probably get a bit of lube in various places. But anyway, that's it for now.